Okay, so we shall start now. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope
Good afternoon.
you had a great snacks before this lecture so that you get charged. So it's always a challenging task to conduct a last lecture. So I will try my best. So once again, I will welcome you all for this today's live session. So let's take a recap of what we have seen in yesterday's session. So on yesterday, we have discussed what is the analog data and what is the digital data, what is the analog signal and what is the digital signal. Then we have also discussed what are the different forms of signal. So sine wave is one of the form of the signal. So how sine wave is represented, that we have seen. Then we have also discussed the different parameters used to represent the sine wave, and there are three major parameters to represent the sine wave, that is basically frequency, amplitude and phase. So frequency has one more characteristic, that is period. So they are actually uh, two different ways to define the signal. Okay, so their characteristic is same basically, so they are inverse of each other. That's what I mean. And then we have also seen the phase, what is phase and all. So in today's lecture I will go further, and now we'll see what is the wavelength and period. Okay, so wavelength is what? So wavelength is basically the distance that signal travel in one cycle. Okay, so what is the distance of one cycle? That represents the wavelength, and wavelength is typically measured in centimeters or in millimeters. Okay, so here in this example you can see that this represents the wavelength, and we know that this actually represents the one period or one cycle of this signal, so you can call it as like this. So what is the distance of one cycle? So let's say that the distance of one cycle is t, then how much that this second signal, the entire distance of this signal is represented with t, then the second signal has the wavelength of t plus small t plus capital T. So small t is actually this entire distance plus this one period that we have added, because the signal has traveled only one cycle after this. So that's the reason the wavelength of this second signal is calculated as t plus small t plus capital T. So small t is basically this entire distance. This is represented as t and this is represented as capital T. Right? So that is the wavelength. So wavelength is basically a measure of the distance that the signal travels, and it is calculated using the period. Right? The measure is period or the cycle, the number of cycle, the distance of one cycle, then multiplied by the total number of cycle. So let's go further, and now we can see how the signal can be represented using the different domains. So far what we have seen is the representation of signal using the time domain, but the signal can also be represented using frequency domain. So this figure, it shows the time domain and the frequency domain plots of sine wave. The first figure here, you can see that this signal, it has the peak amplitude of 5 volt, and it has the frequency of 6 hertz. Okay, so this is this x-axis, it actually represents the time, and the y-axis represents the amplitude. So this is the time domain representation of a signal. Whereas this figure, it represents the signal using frequency. So it is a frequency domain representation of a signal. So x-axis, it represents the different discrete values of the frequency. Remember, I'm again telling you the discrete values we have represented here, but whatever in between these discrete values, they are actually the continuous values. So between 0 and 1, there are so many continuous values, 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, and so on. And like this between the 1 and 2. Well, so the peak amplitude of this frequency domain representation of signal is also same. The amplitude will remain same whether it is a time domain representation or a frequency domain representation. So amplitude of this both signal, in both the cases, it is 5 volt. Now here the signal is represented with a single spike. Okay, because we know that this signal, this pink color signal, which is represented using time domain, it has the frequency of 6 hertz. Now when we are representing the same signal using a frequency domain, we are just representing with a single spike or a single vertical line. So this line says that the frequency has the signal has 6 hertz frequency and it has 5 volt amplitude. Remember, we measure the amplitude in the volt and we measure the frequency in hertz. Okay, so these are the two different representation of the signal using time domain axis and the frequency domain axis. A complete sine wave in the time domain, it can be represented by one single spike in the frequency domain, which I have shown you. The frequency domain is more compact and it is useful when you are dealing with more than one sine wave. So it is better to use the better to represent the signal in a frequency domain when you are representing a composite signal, that is when you are representing a multiple signals, multiple sine waves. So in the next slide we are going to see that how 3 sine waves, each with the different amplitude and the frequency, they are represented by using the 3 spikes in the frequency domain. Okay, so let's just see that the first figure, it shows the time domain representation of 3 sine waves. Okay, one with the pink and then green and this blue. So this blue sine wave, it has 0 frequency, but it has the amplitude 15. Whereas the pink sine wave, it has the it has some frequency, 8 hertz frequency. Sorry, it has 8 hertz frequency and its amplitude is 10 volt. Whereas this green signal, it has the frequency of 16 hertz and has the 5 volt amplitude. Now this representation of these 3 signals, when we are transforming it into a frequency domain representation, then we are just representing these 3 signals with the 3 single spikes. Okay, so this blue vertical line, this, it represents the representation of blue signal, which has the 0 frequency and 15 volt amplitude. So remember, y-axis it represents the amplitude and x-axis it represents the frequency in hertz. Pink signal is represented with the single spike, which has 8 hertz frequency and 10 volts amplitude. And the same way, the green signal is also represented as a single spike, which has 16 hertz frequency and 5 volt amplitude. Okay. A single frequency sine wave is not useful in data communication, but although it is not useful in a data communication, but single frequency sine wave has many more applications, like a single wave sine wave or a single frequency sine wave is basically used to carry the electric signal in your house or the business firms, right? So usually the frequency of such electric signal is it is standard, but it may vary from country to country. So the standard ideal electric signal frequency is 60 kilohertz. As well as sometimes a single frequency sine wave is also used to convey some data or to represent some data. For example, when you have the single frequency sine wave, which actually carries some alarm signal, okay, then in that case this alarm is basically information, something it carries. Okay, so when alarm signal is generated, then the security, it is basically a security alerts, right? So we are carrying some amount of information using a single frequency sine wave. But usually in data communication, so that is a part of the data communication, because what we are doing is we are carrying the electric signal and some of the application. But specifically, if we talk in the context of data communication, we need to send a composite signal, a signal which is made up of many simple sine waves, or which is a combination of multiple sine waves. So such signals are usually preferred in data communication. I already mentioned this in yesterday's session. So friends, first we need to understand what is the periodic signal and the non-periodic signal, the basic difference. A periodic signal, doesn't matter whether it is an analog or a digital signal, it forms some pattern. Yesterday we have seen that the analog periodic analog signal, okay, which forms some pattern, that is it has cycles, okay, it has some periods, so it forms some pattern, right? Whereas non-periodic signals, doesn't matter whether it is digital signal or analog signal, they do not form any pattern. They are just random signals in the media. So according to some Fourier analysis, we are going to learn the Fourier analysis in the upcoming sessions, don't worry. So according to Fourier analysis, any composite signal is a combination of simple sine waves with the different frequencies, amplitude, and the phases. So if the composite signal is periodic, the decomposition gives a series of signal with the discrete frequencies. And if the composite signal is non-periodic, then the decomposition gives a combination of sine waves with the continuous frequency. Okay, so your periodic, your non-periodic signals, they always contains a continuous frequency or a continuous value frequency, whereas your periodic signals, they contains the discrete value frequency. So in the next slide, we'll see the periodic composite signal with the frequency f. And this type of signal is not typically used in the data communication or found in a data communication. So we can consider it to be alarm system, each with the different frequency. So the analysis of this signal can give us a good understanding of how to decompose the signal. So I have explained you how when you are using a single frequency sine wave, then how it carries the information, and maybe it is used to carry some power or the electric signal to your houses or the businesses. So this is the good example of composite periodic signal. So this is a time domain representation of a composite periodic signal. So let us decompose this composite periodic signal, because we know that a composite periodic signal, it actually contains, or it is a combination of multiple sine wave or more than one sine wave. So the decomposition of composite periodic signal in the time and the frequency domain, it is shown here in this figure, in this slide. So this composite periodic signal, it is now decomposed into three signals. One with the different amplitude, different frequency. Okay, so here the first signal is indicated with the pink, second is indicated with the blue, and the third is indicated with the black signal. Okay, black color. So each of these three signal, they have different amplitude. First signal has the maybe amplitude some x, the blue signal has some amplitude y, and the black signal has amplitude z. Even the frequency of all these three signals, they are different. The frequency of pink signal is f, whereas the blue is 3f, and that to the black signal, black color signal has the frequency of 9. Okay. So this is the time domain representation of the composite signal, and this figure shows you the frequency domain representation of the composite signal. So we know the frequencies of each signal. The frequency of pink signal is f, the blue is 3, and the black is 9. So that we have represented all these three signals with their frequency using a single spike. Okay. Now let us go to the non-periodic composite signal. So what we have seen so far, it was the periodic composite signal. Now we'll see the non-periodic composite signal. Now a non-periodic composite signal, it can be the signal which is created by a microphone or a telephone set when a word or a two is pronounced, when you pronounce some one word or two words. Now, but typically in this case, the composite signal, they cannot be periodic because that implies that we are repeating the same word or words with the exactly the same tone. Okay, and that's highly impossible. Okay, when we pronounce some word, usually our tone varies. Okay, and we know that periodic means what? It forms the cycle repeatedly over a certain period of time. Okay, and that is not basically possible in a non-periodic composite signal. So this slide, it shows you the time and frequency domain of a non-periodic signal, and here you can see that this non-periodic signal representation using time domain, here the signal do not form any pattern. However, if you compare it with the periodic signal, you can see that the periodic signal, it forms some pattern. So that is the basic difference between periodic and a non-periodic signals. And this figure, it shows the frequency domain representation of the same non-periodic signal. Okay, where we are just looking at the lower frequency of this signal and the higher frequency of this signal. Okay, and this black vertical line, it basically says this is the highest intensity of this signal during the transmission, which shows the peak amplitude. Okay, which always measures in volts. So the bandwidth of the composite signal is the difference between the highest and the lowest frequency which is contained in that signal itself. Okay, that represents the bandwidth. This is very important. So how do we calculate the bandwidth? Provided that you have been given the lowest frequency of the signal and the highest frequency of the signal. So the bandwidth is basically the difference of these two different frequencies, lowest and highest frequency. That represents the bandwidth. So here in this example, you can see the bandwidth of the periodic and a non-periodic composite signal is given. So the bandwidth of the periodic signal, here it is calculated as 4000. Why? Because the lowest frequency is 1000 kilohertz and the highest frequency is the 5000 kilohertz. So we just take a difference of it from highest minus lowest. So 5000 minus 1000 will give me the 4000 hertz as the bandwidth of this periodic signal. Even the same process is used to calculate the bandwidth of the non-periodic signal as well. Here the lowest signal band frequency is 1000 hertz and the highest frequency of this signal is the 5000 hertz. So take the difference of it and again we'll get the 4000 hertz as the bandwidth of this signal. So if a periodic signal is decomposed, this is problem. If a periodic signal is decomposed into 5 sine waves with a frequency of 100, 300, 500, 700 and 900 hertz, what is its bandwidth? What is the bandwidth of the periodic composite signal? And we're supposed to draw the spectrum assuming that all the components have a maximum amplitude of 10 volt. Yes, can you represent it? Can you find out what is the bandwidth of this signal, this composite signal, which have been decomposed into 5 sine waves? Okay, this is basically a periodic composite signal, and we know that the periodic composite signal, it carries the more than one sine wave, or it carries the multiple or the combination of sine waves, right? So we have decomposed this. When we have decomposed this periodic composite signal, then what we received is the 5 frequencies, 5 different signals, 5 different sine waves with the different frequencies. And now we want to calculate its bandwidth. So what is the bandwidth? Can anybody unmute the mic? Because I am in presentation mode, so I cannot go back.
800 hertz.
800 hertz. So 800 hertz is the right answer. Okay. Why? Because even though it has the 5 sine waves, but we usually consider the lowest frequency and the highest frequency. So the lowest frequency is 100 and the highest frequency is 900. So highest minus lowest, that is 900 minus 100, will give me the answer. 100 hertz is the bandwidth that I will get for this signal. Okay, then we're supposed to represent this signal, these different spikes or this spectrum, assuming all the components have maximum amplitude of 10 hertz. So let us represent this all the 5 signals using frequency domain. So I am using the frequency domain, and this is my amplitude. So this represents my amplitude, and here it is mentioned that all the signal has the same amplitude, that is 10 volt. So let's say that this is 100, this is 200, this is 300, this is, let's say that 500, and let's say this is 700, and this is 900. So we are representing all these, we are drawing the spectrum using this frequency domain. So every signal will be represented as the single spike. So this may be 5 volt, this may be 10 volt, this may be 15 volt. So we have 100 hertz frequency, then we have 300 hertz frequency sine wave, we have 500 hertz frequency sine wave. So just bear my drawing, because okay, then we have fourth sine wave, which has the 700 frequency and 10 volt amplitude, and then we have the last sine wave, which has the 9 hertz frequency and the 10 volt amplitude. So this is what I have just drawn. So let us go quickly to the next. A periodic signal has a bandwidth of 20 hertz. The highest frequency is 60 hertz. What is the lowest frequency? Can anybody tell me? So solution, as a part of solution, we are just taking the difference of highest frequency minus lowest frequency to calculate the bandwidth. So what is the bandwidth in this example?
40 hertz.
40 hertz is the bandwidth. And if I try to represent this signal, then it will be represented across the frequency domain like this. So the lowest frequency in this signal has 40 hertz, and the highest frequency has 60 hertz. So we can have we can have 20 such different single spikes within this range, okay, which represents the different frequency values. Actually, I'm extremely sorry. We're supposed to actually find out the lowest frequency in this example, because the bandwidth is given to us and the highest frequency is given to us, right? So the lowest frequency is I just let me take a pen so that I can give you. So we know that the bandwidth B, it is calculated as the highest frequency minus lowest frequency. We have been given a bandwidth that is 20 hertz, and the highest frequency is given to us, that is 60 hertz, and we're supposed to calculate the lowest frequency. So bring this term on the right hand side and bring this lowest frequency term on the left hand side. So what we get is lowest frequency will be calculated at 60 minus 20, which gives me the 40 hertz. So the lowest frequency in this signal is the 40 hertz. So a non-periodic composite signal, again the one more example, it has a bandwidth of 200 kilohertz with the middle frequency of 140 kilohertz and the peak amplitude of 20 volts. Now we're supposed to find out the lowest frequency as well as the highest frequency given the middle frequency. Okay, and one more data is given to us. They have mentioned that in this example, the two extreme frequencies have an amplitude of 0. So that means the amplitude of lowest frequency and the amplitude of the highest frequency is 0. So you can just imagine how your your signal will look like? Can anybody tell me what is the answer? Can anybody give me the answer? Think of this problem. So we have been given only the middle frequency of your signal, that is 140 kilohertz, and we're supposed to calculate the lowest frequency and the highest frequency. Okay, so let me tell you. So the lowest frequency will be 40 kilohertz and the highest frequency will be 240 kilohertz. Okay, because the bandwidth that is given to us is what? 200. You can focus here. The middle frequency that is given to us is 140 kilohertz. Now we're supposed to find out. So the lowest frequency would be 40 and the highest frequency will be 240. Understand? And how we found it? Because we have been given a middle frequency. So let me show you. So as it is mentioned that the extreme frequencies, that is lowest and highest, they are 0. Okay, so that means the amplitude of this lowest frequency and the highest frequency is 0. So that is 0. Amplitude is 0. But it has a frequency of 40 kilohertz. Okay, the bandwidth, the total bandwidth given to us is 200 and the middle frequency is 140 kilohertz. So is there any problem in understanding this? Is there any problem? Can anybody unmute? Any one of you can unmute your mic and please let me know whether you understood.
No, sir.
Okay. So shall we go ahead?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So far we have seen the analog signal and then what are the composite analog signal and periodic composite analog signal and the non-periodic composite analog signal. So now we have seen, now we'll discuss the digital signals. So in addition to the information that we represent so far by using the analog signal, but we can also represent the information by using the digital signal. Only the way we represent the information using digital signal is different. Here in digital signal, we use 2 digits, 2 codes to represent the signal. So for example, a 1 can be encoded as a positive voltage and a 0 can be represented as a 0 voltage, or it can be encoded as a 0 voltage. A digital signal, it can have more than 2 levels. In this case, we can send more than 1 bit for each level. So how much bits, how much digital bits we can send, it depends on the levels of your digital signal. If your digital signal has 2 levels, then we can send more than 1 bit for each level. Okay. So as a part of digital signal, we'll discuss the bit rate, that is again a bandwidth, then bit length, digital signal as a composite analog signal, and then we'll see what are the applications of digital signal in an application. Okay. So here in this slide, the 2 digital signals are shown, one with the 2 signal levels and other with the 4 signal levels. So the first digital signal, it has 2 levels. Okay, this is 1 level and this is 2nd level. Okay, and because this digital signal has the 2 levels, so it can allow to send only 1 bit. Remember, if your digital signal has 2 levels, then that digital signal will be allowed to send only 1 bit. So here you can see 1 0 1 1 0 1 0 0. Okay, now in 1 second, total how many bits that two level digital signal can send. So in 1 second, total 8 bits can be sent by the digital signal which has two levels. Okay. Now let us compare this with the 4 level digital signal, and because this digital signal which has 0 and 1s and it sends 8 bits in 1 second, so its bit rate will be calculated as 8 bps, that is 8 bits per second. So what is the bit rate? What is the transmission rate of this digital signal? So it is 8 bits per second, and it is always calculated or it is measured in bits per second. Okay, so एक सेकंड में कितने बिट्स हम सेंड करते हैं, that is basically the bit rate. Okay, so here in this case we are sending only 8 bits in 1 second, so its bit rate will be 8 bits per second. Now in this case, in the second digital signal, because this digital signal is represented using the 4 level, and we know that if a digital signal is represented using more than 2 levels, then we can allow to send more than 1 bit. And here you can see here we can send using 4 level digital signal, we are allowed to send the 2 bits, that is 1 and 1. Okay, so at every spike of this digital signal, at every cycle of this digital signal, we have sent a 2 bits, and that's the reason in 1 second we can send a 16 bits if your digital signal has 4 levels. And because of this, because it sends the 16 bits in 1 second, so its bit rate is calculated as 16 bits per second. So we are also see that the information about the exponential and the logarithmic function. So let us say that a digital signal which has 8 level, how many bits are needed per level? We calculate the number of bits from the formula, and this formula is basically,
Sir,
yes,
it's reminder 2.
Yes, what happened? 20 minutes okay. Okay, no problem. Thank you. So if a digital signal has 8 levels, how many bits it can carry per level? Can anybody guess the answer? We have seen that if digital signal has 2 levels, then it can carry only 1 bit. If digital signal has 4 levels, then it can carry 2 bits. If a digital signal has 8 levels, then how many bits it can carry per level? Any guess? Any?
256.
No. Wrong. Not 256. Remember, if a digital signal has 2 levels, then at each level it can carry only 1 bit, and we have seen in this figure. Okay, here at every level this signal is carrying only 1 bit, and in 1 second it sends only 8 bits. Okay, because this forms the 8 bit. So that's the bit rate of the digital signal. If digital signal has 4 levels, then we can see here that at every level the signal holds 2 bit, or signal can carry 2 bits in every level. So in the same way, if a digital signal has 8 levels, how many bits are needed per level?
4 bits.
4 bits. No, 4 bits not. You are actually okay.
Eight bits.
No. So it is basically a function of log base 2 the number of levels. Okay, this formula will give you the number of bits that a signal can carry at every level. Can anybody tell me now? What is the answer? So you're supposed to use this formula in order to calculate the number of bits per level. Now tell me. So it is actually 3. The right answer is the 3 answer. Okay. Now in the same case, if a digital signal has 9 levels, then how many bits are needed per level? Can anybody please tell me now using this formula? If a digital signal has a 9 levels, log base 2 9. Okay, so how many bits per level it carries? The number of bits per level it carries. So it may be, if you take the log base 2 9, this, if you take a calculation of this term, then it will come 3.17. But practically it is not possible. Okay, because a digital signal, it always holds a discrete value, and here you can see that this is not a discrete value, this is a continuous value. And that's the reason whenever you have the answers like this, then in that case you never say that a signal can carry 3.17 bit. So we just round up this value to 4 or 3. But most probably in major cases, in most of the cases, we will round up this value to the higher side, that is 4. We neglect the lower side. Okay, so the right answer for this question is 4. So again, one more question, that is assume we need to download the text documents at the rate of 100 pages per minute. What is the required bit rate of the channel? So page is an average of 24 lines with 80 characters in each line. So if you assume that one character requires 8 bits, then the bit rate will be calculated as, how many pages are there? Let me go back and take a pen. So we have total number of pages is 100. A single page is an average of 24 lines with the 80 characters in each line. Now we are assuming that one character requires 8 bits to hold. Okay, then 8. Okay, so this will give me the total number of bit rate. It comes around 1.5 something like that. Okay, so you can calculate it and you can check the answer. So same way, if a digitized voice channel is made up of by digitizing it at 4 kilohertz bandwidth using the analog voice signal. So we need to sample a signal at twice the highest frequency. So 2 samples per hertz. So we assume that each sample requires 8 bits. So what is the required bit rate? So now here what we are doing is, so let us convert this 4 kilohertz bandwidth digitized voice channel into a hertz. Okay, so we know that 1 kilohertz is equal to 1000 hertz. So 4 kilohertz will be equivalent to 4000 hertz into what we have been seeing, that we need to sample the signal at twice the highest frequency. So we have to sample the signal twice at the highest frequency. This is my highest frequency of the signal, that is 4000 kilohertz. And we are assuming that each sample require 8 bits. Okay, so that will give me the answer. This is another example, but you can, I will upload this slide on this presentation on the Moodle course. So you just go through this example. Due to the time limit, I'm just skipping this example. Okay, so as we have represented the periodic and a non-periodic analog signal using time and frequency domain. So now we'll also see the time and frequency domain representation of a periodic and a non-periodic digital signal. So the first part of this slide, it shows the time representation of a periodic and non-periodic digital signal. So this is a periodic digital signals representation using time domain, and this is frequency representation of a periodic digital signal. In the same way, you can, because in this case the frequency has the discrete values, right? It has discrete values, whereas and it forms some pattern. Whereas here you can see that in a non-periodic digital signal, the time domain representation, here it is represented, whereas the frequency domain representation of a non-periodic digital signal, here you can find out the signal has the different discrete values and it does not form any shape, any pattern. Okay, you cannot see any pattern in this. So these are the two examples of time and frequency domain representation of a periodic and a non-periodic digital signal. So let's go quickly to the next topic, that is baseband transmission. So because we know that the transmission media that we are using in case of wired media, it is a cable, and the computer that we are using to transmit to generate the data, that is in the form of digital. Now the question in your mind may be that how do we send this digital data across analog transmission media? Okay, so that's really a big problem for us. So what is the solution to this? And that's what we are going to see in this baseband transmission concept. So baseband transmission, it always consists of a low pass channel. It do not facilitate the transmission using a high pass channel. See, usually it is used the low pass channel. And you can see in this figure, let's say that this is sender A and this is sender B. So sender A has generated some message M1, and we know that whenever we generate any message or data using computer, it is in the digital form, and we want to send this message M1 to B. But the problem is that this channel, this baseband, low pass baseband channel, transmission channel, it carries only analog signal. Okay, so how do we deal with this problem? So let's go ahead. So a digital signal is a composite analog signal with an infinite bandwidth. Here you can see that these are the two figures which shows the bandwidth of two low pass channel. In the first figure, the signal has, the low pass channel has a wide bandwidth, okay, which is represented using a frequency domain. As this figure, this low pass channel has a narrow bandwidth. Okay, so this is represented. So how the wide bandwidth and the narrow bandwidth is represented using a low pass channel. Now a baseband transmission is you can say that it is a dedicated medium to transmit our data, right? So how our signal will get attenuated, or you can say that how our signal get distorted or it will get changed during the transmission via this low pass channel. Okay, so here you can see clearly, or you can observe here that this is our input signal, this is the bandwidth of the input signal, and this is my input signal. And when we have transmitted this digital input signal via this low pass wide bandwidth channel, then it has transmitted it, and it get received by the receiver, and this is the output signal bandwidth at the receiver's end. And now you can see how your signal look like. So don't we think that my signal shape is different from what the sender had seen? Yes. And remember the principle of data communication that we have discussed in first or second session, that whatever we send, exactly the same information should be received by the destination. This is what we have seen. And here in this case, we are observing that what sender had sent is not received by the receiver. Okay. So the baseband transmission of a digital signal that preserves the shape of the digital signal is possible only if we have a low pass channel with an infinite or very wide bandwidth. Though here the shape of the signal is distorted, but somehow the at some extent the shape of this digital signal is preserved, and that is possible only using a low pass wide bandwidth channel. If you are using low pass narrow bandwidth channel, in that case the signal will be completely distorted. The information within the digital signal will be completely lost at more than 75% information will be lost at the receiver side. So an example of dedicated channel where the entire bandwidth of the medium is used as one single channel is the LAN. So LAN is the best example of demonstrating the low pass baseband transmission media. Almost every wide LAN today use a dedicated channel for two stations who are communicating with each other. So typically in a bus topology, LAN with the multi-point connection, only two stations can communicate with each other at any moment in time. The other two stations need to refrain from sending the data. Essentially in star topology LAN, the entire channel between each station and the hub is used for the communication between these two entities. So we have seen these different network topologies way back. So there is a rough approximation of digital signal using the first harmonic for the worst case. So now we are going to see the different harmonics of the digital signal. So harmonic means what? When I am trying to represent the digital signal using some analog representation. Okay, so that's what. So here these are the first harmonic representation of a digital signal, which usually consists of the bandwidth n by 2, which is shown here, and it had some frequency f and amplitude v. Okay, so the bandwidth is generally measured in the first harmonic as n divided by 2. So n is what? N is basically the number of bit rate. Okay, the number of bits that we can transmit. Remember, the data transmission is measured as bit transmitted per second in digital signal. Okay, so let's quickly go. So this is digital signals analog representation, which has 3 0 bits, and you can see here it is a single spike at the horizontal axis. Okay, in the direction of horizontal axis. Okay, and the phase shift of that signal is always 180 degree. Now whenever you have the digital signal like this, which has the combination of 0 0 1 bit, then its corresponding analog signal will look like this. Okay, where its bandwidth is always calculated as n divided by 4, and it has also a phase shift of 180 degree. Now when your digital signal, which holds the level or the signal shape like this, which holds the bit combination of 0 1 0, then its corresponding analog signal will look like this, and it has the bandwidth calculated as n divided by 2, where n is the bit rate. And again, even this kind of digital signal will also have the phase shift of 180 degree, and so on. So these are the different combinations of this 3 bits. Okay, 3 0 and 1 bits. Okay, well, so these are the the bandwidth of, or the bit rate or the bandwidth of this analog signal, which is represented for this digital signal. It can be calculated as n divided by 4, for this is n by 2, and the phase shift of this signal is 90 degree, the phase shift of this signal is 0 degree. The bandwidth is calculated for this signal as n divided by 4, and its phase shift is also 0, and so on for this last digital signal. So what we have done is we have represented the digital signal using the first harmonic for the worst case. But is it the end of story? No, this is not the end of story. Okay, we can also represent the digital signal using 3 harmony and 5 harmony. Okay, now we'll see what are the possible ways of simulating the digital signal using with the first 3 harmonics. Okay, so when you are using simulating a digital signal using first 3 harmonics, then it will be represented like this. Okay, so this digital signal, which has the combination of 0 1 0 bit, which has corresponding analog signal, and the bandwidth for this kind of analog signal will be calculated as n divided by 2. We know that what is n? N is basically a bit rate. And if your digital signal is look like this, okay, then its bandwidth will be calculated as n divided by 2, or it may be 3n divided by 2, or the 5n divided by 2. So we can have first three harmonics. So first three harmonics means what? So it has the different bandwidth. We can send this digital signal using three different bandwidths. So this bandwidth, it has this is low bandwidth, this is medium rate bandwidth, and this is high rate bandwidth. Okay, and you can represent it here. So for the first three harmonics, the total bandwidth is calculated as 5n divided by 2. So it starts from here. So n divided by 2, then 3n divided by 2, and then 5n divided by 2. So in baseband transmission, the required bandwidth is always proportional to the bit rate. So if we need to send bits faster, then we need to use more bandwidth. So what it means, if I want to send the bits at a slower rate, then I will use the first harmony. Okay, from the first three harmony. If I want to send the bits at some higher speed, medium speed, then I will use the second harmony. And if I want to send the bits at a faster rate, then I have to use the third harmonic. Okay, because third harmonic will have the maximum bandwidth that we have represented here, which is 5n divided by 2. Well, we now see the different bandwidth requirement here. Okay, so bitrate, it is calculated as n represents what? N is equal to 1 kilobits per second, and its first harmonic will always have the 500 kilohertz. Now remember that 1000 beats per second is equal to 1 kilobits per second. Okay, so that means the first harmonic, we can say that, which has the frequency of 500, half of this. Okay, then the third harmonic, we have to use the, you just remember the formula for the first harmonic is n by 2, then formula for the third harmonic is 3n by 2, and that too for the second harmonic. This is for second harmonic, and for the third harmonic it is 5n by 2. We know that what is the bit rate that we got? We got the 1 kilobits per second. We have converted it into a bits per second, that is 1000 bits per second. So 1000, in this case 1000 divided by 2, what we get is 500 hertz. Then in this case it will be 3 into 1000 divided by 2, what we get is 1.5 kilohertz. Okay, because the frequency that we will get is 1500 hertz, and we just converted this 1500 hertz into a kilohertz, that is 1.5 kilohertz. And the same way for the third harmonic, we just put the value of this bit rate, this 1 kilobits which we have converted into 1000, into this formula. So 1000 into 5 divided by 2, so which will be 2500, and just convert it into a kilohertz. So what we get is the 2.5 kilohertz frequency. So here you can easily analyze that if I am sending the data, if I am sending the bits using the first harmonic, then I will have a very low bandwidth, that is 500. If I am using,
Hello, sir.
yes, 30 minutes.
Sir, actually, no, the time is actually over after 15 minutes only, before 15 minutes.
Okay.
Second reminder was given by Kunal.
Okay. Sorry. Yeah, actually I didn't heard it. Okay, anyways, we'll take it later on. We'll stop here. Okay, thank you. See you on Monday.